Okay.
All right. Hi, Dr. Mortensen. This is my presentation. Now, to simulate an actual class experience, because there's no one here, I've brought two of my friends to watch the presentation, and they're going to ask questions at the end. So those are what the other people talking will be. All right, my presentation is The Books and the Brothers, an experiment on the continuity of consciousness and the path to immortality. So, to begin, we have two brothers. They were born under natural circumstances, and they, unfortunately, have a rare medical condition. They have both anterograde and retrograde amnesia. They both can't remember things, and they can't create new memories. So at any given time, they have nothing to reference, and they aren't remembering new things as they go about their day. They're basically vegetables. So when they go to bed, they wake up, they're a blank slate. There's nothing there. Luckily, Mom has an idea. So it's good for us that these two brothers are absolute super geniuses. And she buys both of them journals. Now, these two journals, they're infinite, just for the sake of this idea, and they can store as much information as they want. These boys, being very good authors, can write down anything in the journal in perfect detail the way they experience it in the world. So it wouldn't just be, I saw a cat. They'd describe everything about the way they saw the cat, how it made them feel, in a continuous stream of consciousness type thing. They write it down, then they read the journal. They wake up in the morning, they read the journal that has the previous day's contents, and every day before that day. And they experience their entire lives again as though they're experiencing it for the first time through this journal. When they wake up in the morning, they're a blank slate, they read the book, and bam, presto, they're a regular person as though they've lived their entire lives. So, this goes on. This, I'm not going to give an age, doesn't matter, but let's say until they're 14. They've continually been writing in their journals. They've been experiencing things, writing it down, and then remembering it every morning so that they can become people and aren't just in a vegetative state in their bed. Now, this is our scenario as we have it right now. The boys, for this sake of the presentation, is Miles and Oliver, or M and O. So this is the Oliver body. This is the Oliver. Oh no. There we go. It's a touch screen. This is the Oliver book, this is the Oliver body, and this is the Oliver mind. And this is the Miles body, book, and mind. Now, an accident happens. The books are swapped one day by mistake. Doesn't matter how it happened, the cleaning lady accidentally put them in the wrong place. And this is our scenario now. We have the Oliver body with the Oliver mind with the Miles book, and the Miles body, Miles mind, and Oliver book. So, the boys read their books. To them, they don't know the books are different. They have no memories in their mind to make them different. They are still catatonic, they wake up. They have no reason to believe that the events described in this journal aren't what they have been experiencing their entire lives. So, the question is, when Miles reads Oliver's book, or Oliver reads Miles' book, Miles and Oliver's book? Whatever one I didn't say, would the contents of that person's brain be effectively switched because they experienced the other person's life through the only means that they've experienced any life, and I propose that they would now be switched, and that this would be our state. The Oliver body with the Miles book and the Miles mind, the Miles body with the Oliver book and the Oliver mind. In other words, I'm proposing that the contents of the mind is exclusively based on the contents of the book. Now, people may have objections to this. Objection number one, babies can't read and write. That's fair, that's a good objection, that's worth noting. The alternate version of this thought experiment is the exact same, but instead of the books and the brothers, it's the brothers and the microchips. The brothers would have a microchip implanted in their neck, and they would have physical sensors throughout their body. Every nerve cell would be hooked up to a sensor. Every taste bud, there would be microphones in their ears, there would be smellomatics in their noses. Every way that they perceive the world would be cataloged, registered, and stored in this microchip. And the same process would happen. The microchip switch. Oh, and when they wake up in the morning, they put the microchip in a machine. The boy sits in the machine. The machine correctly and accurately reproduces every physical sensation that that boy would have experienced up until that point. If he felt a cut, he'd feel the cut in the machine. If he smelled the smell, he'd feel the smell in the machine, but at an accelerated rate so that they could, the machine does the process in 15 or so minutes and not, months or years, like how actual time goes. Next objection, wouldn't their physical bodies not match the memories they have in their minds? So let's say theoretically that Miles is 5'5", and Oliver is 6'1". Miles may have a memory of not being able to reach a high shelf, or he may have a memory of being able to reach a high shelf, but in his new physical form, he can't reach the high shelf. That would cause a discrepancy, and they might learn something's going on. To remedy this, they could be twins. That would also work for the second and third objection, the nature versus nurture argument. Are the boys really going to turn out the same way if they have different genetic bases? That's an objection that's valid. For this, they'll be twins or even clones, whichever one will satisfy your objection. It's a fluid thought experiment. And what about some fourth objection that I can't account for because I didn't think of it? I haven't thought of that one yet. But if there are objections from the audience, I can take those now.
What happens if you end up after a little bit of time and the books switch back?
Well, since the boys have no means of remembering anything, whatever the contents of the book, the microchip in the book can be the same symbol in this. I'll just say book because it's a little easier. Whatever the contents of the book is entirely the cause of what's in the boy's mind. So you can switch the books however many times you want, as long as when the boy wakes up, he reads the book, it would be Miles or Oliver. Just dependent on that. All right, that was me answering that. Right, I already did this. Right, I was supposed to flip through the slides, that's fine. All right, where is the boy when he wakes up in the morning? And this section of the presentation is partially me answering and partially I want responses from the audience. When the boy wakes up in the morning, the hollow shell of the person laying in the bed that has experienced nothing and is effectively a newborn infant with nothing more than qualio responses to things is definitely not the person. If I wasn't talking like this and I wasn't expressing myself as I am now, I was just a physical husk, you'd argue that's not Leif, that's just Leif's body. Secondly, if I had been keeping a journal my entire life of the quality of Miles and Oliver, and you read that, you wouldn't say, this is Leif. All of Leif is in this journal right now. This is everything he's ever experienced, and thus this is the sum of Leif. I don't buy that either. I think that Miles or Oliver or any person is the point where the physical body meets the book. The book has to exist in the mind of the physical body for the person to exist. Do you have any thoughts on this, audience?
Can you re-say them?
What part of it?
Just what you think at the end, like the last two sentences you said.
I think that I can
Yeah, right now.
or that I would state that the book plus the person, the body, is equal to an actual person, like me.
So one Oliver.
What?
So like one Oliver or one.
One Oliver
Yeah.
is equal to the body of Oliver plus the book of Oliver.
Okay.
And if it's just the book, you just have a very well-written book. That's not a person. And if you just have the body, you have a chunk of living flesh, but that is also not the person. Any further points on this point?
I guess similar to the other question I asked, what if both boys end up reading the same book? Where?
Which one is it? Yeah, that one. So I'll get back to this point in a minute.
All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just say they read the book and they really like cats. And then, so they go through the day, or years, whatever,
It's a
liking
day.
cats.
Yeah.
And just one day they got attacked by a cat and wrote in their book, I hate cats.
Mhm.
Would they have mixed emotions about cats, or would they always just,
This-
depending on the
it-
next day?
They're fully formed people in the combination of the books and the bodies. Their reaction to a cat would be exactly the same reaction as you suddenly being attacked by a cat. If it's in the book, it changed who they are, thus they may have mixed emotions on cats.
And also, you said that they read the book every morning.
Yeah.
I realize. And that's going to be like infinite amount of pages. Are we also just saying that they infinitely?
We're saying that they're really fast readers.
Okay.
They're way above their grade level.
Okay.
That's like what, 12th grade reading? Yeah,
Sure.
they're up there. They're good. All right, I'm gonna move on from this point.
Yeah.
All right. Does the existence of the boy in the book give a path to immortality? I argue yes. Because if the Oliver book, I'll give the Oliver book as its main example. If the Oliver book can be read by Miles, and the Miles body takes up the information and is now Oliver for all intents and purposes. And I haven't asked you if you buy that yet, but this is what I'm stating. Well, we can get to whether or not this has convinced you. If this can happen with Miles, just another person, who's to say that this can't happen with a third person? The third person in the mix, I don't know, Sean, if it's Milo, Oliver, and Sean, and they all have the same problem of anterograde and retrograde amnesia, then the Miles brain can exist in the Sean body just fine. Well, let's say Sean exists 400 years from now. Let's say this medical condition crops back up, and in 400 years, a person named Sean is catatonic laying in bed, and everyone is, he's doing the journal thing as well, and he finds Oliver's book. Well, he reads the book, and bam, 400 years later, Oliver's in Sean's body. Oliver's mind exists only as the book. Sean's body is just a body, so Oliver book plus Sean's body is Oliver. In his completion, there might be some problems if Sean's, physically different, but it'll be effectively, I propose, the same thing. Any questions on this? Cool. All right. How would personal property work if who a person is not well defined? There's a classic thought experiment that is about I think it might be by Hume. I don't quite remember. I'm sorry, Dr. Mortensen. It's about, there are two people, I can use Miles and Oliver again. Miles and Oliver. And brain transplants are suddenly a thing. And you switch minds, and Oliver wakes up in Miles' body, Miles wakes up in Oliver's body. And then the doctor says, congratulations for your treatment. I'm going to give one of you $1 million. Would the Oliver mind argue for the Oliver mind to get the money in the Miles body, or for the Oliver body to get the money with the Miles mind? I think that pretty much everyone would argue for where their consciousness is, whichever body it's in, to get the money. I think arguing otherwise is like saying, I want to give $1 million to my used car because it carried me for a while. You want the money for the person who owns the head, who is the body. All right, any thoughts on this? My example in this is basically the same thing. If they switched, their very rich uncle gives them $1 million, which one should be entitled to the money? Is it Miles with Oliver's mind or Oliver with Miles' mind? I don't propose an answer to this one. I don't know. But do either of you have any thoughts on that?
How would they know, like, what consciousness is in what mind, or in what body? Like, would they just have a series of tests?
Let's say it's well known.
Okay.
Let's say that these boys are open about what's happened to them.
Okay.
And maybe they wouldn't know initially, because that's the whole point, that you wouldn't be able to know. but maybe they wear shirts with the letter printed on it, and the mom is like, whoa, 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 what happened here? 50s housewife, shake her finger. I'd argue that, I'm not going to state my point, because I don't know. I think that the money should go to whoever consciousness it is. If the uncle said, I'm going to give it to Oliver, then the money should go to whoever thinks they're Oliver. That's my point. Do you guys have opinions? Do you share my intuition?
It's like the other person could just be like a dick and be like, I'm Oliver too.
Well, let's say they're not awful people.
Okay. Because in that sense, they could just get greedy and want the money and just constantly say, I'm Oliver.
Of course they could. But let's just say that they're not going to be awful. And from a third-party perspective, who do you think should get the money?
Personally, I want to say that's like, from a third person's point of view, they really can't tell who's who.
Well, let's say they're open about who's who. Let's say that they say, I'm Oliver in Miles' body, and I'm Miles in Oliver's body. Who do you think should get the money under that circumstance?
Assume the mind, but like, yeah.
Let's say I don't have a strong opinion.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion?
I generally lean towards the mind.
I think
from a glance.
I think that's the general way that people will react to this. I don't like saying that it is the way people will react to this without asking a bunch of people, but I think that's a pretty easy intuition to see. All right. The thing Andrew brought up earlier, if both boys read the same book, would it effectively be cloning the person? I think yes. If Oliver read Oliver's book and if Miles read Oliver's book, there would be the same mind inhabiting both bodies. Do you share my intuition on this? They're nodding yes, Dr. Moore. How would the death penalty play into this? Let's say Oliver kills someone, and ignoring the works of Prejean, let's say that the death penalty is the thing that's going to happen. We're not going to argue that. Would the Oliver mind be in the Miles body, or the Miles body with the Oliver mind? Which one deserves the death penalty? I would argue that it's the consciousness that did it. That's pretty easy to see. But what if the Oliver book persists? But what if the Oliver mind was killed in the Miles person? The Miles person was executed, and the law wraps up the case. But then they find out that if anyone else with anterograde and retrograde amnesia, no memories whatsoever, reads the Oliver book, Oliver's back. He's there again. Would they order the burning of the books? Would that be considered enough to say that this person should die? Kyle?
Wouldn't people have different, I know what your thought process is based off of, experiences and memories back in the past, but, wouldn't people have different ways of, understanding things if they read something? If me and you read something, I'm going to think something totally different.
Absolutely. But I'd argue that's basically based on our experiences with memory.
Okay.
And that if you don't like that argument, you can use the microchip argument. It's similar enough, but it might cover that basis.
Okay.
Couldn't you just destroy the book and have the person go to sleep and then the next day they're a new blank slate?
That's actually I haven't thought of that. That's a really good question. I think yes. But would the book be able to be destroyed? Should it be destroyed? If you found out that there's a ticking time bomb, just a timer, that one day Ted Bundy's back and he's just going to go out killing again?
And if we're using the death penalty for this, I don't think the killing the person part's an issue necessarily. If that's what's going on.
That's fair.
Yeah, you're just saying that the mind is the person in a sense. The body has nothing to do with anything.
That almost makes it seem like if I write a good enough biography that's super well written and then kill a bunch of people, that my biography should be burned because it might inspire people or it might put my mind into someone else's mind. You could argue that my mind is put into someone else's consciousness whenever they read my autobiography.
But in that scenario, is it going to affect someone the same as this shell person?
Probably not, and I'd argue that it's different, and that might be why it's okay, but it's an interesting thing to think about. You got a point, Kyle?
No.
Okay.
Andrew Gates was
All right. And where's the border of death when a consciousness doesn't exist just in the mind? This is sort of the same question. If the Oliver body dies, but the Oliver book exists, is Oliver still alive? I'd argue that Oliver could come back to life, but Oliver is effectively dead because his body's dead, and the book isn't alive, the book isn't thinking, but the book is the key to creating life again. Do either of you have thoughts on this?
Yeah, technically when someone dies, you write on a paper, Oliver died. Oliver Law died.
Mhm.
So technically Oliver did die.
Yeah.
And she also has a chance of becoming...
But imagine from the Oliver mind's perspective.
So it's kind of like just a resuscitation.
Yeah.
They might be legally dead in the sense that we think of it for someone who's not fully resuscitated, but they're still capable of being alive.
It's like they're being resuscitated. It's an interesting thought. This is actually kind of similar to the transporter thought experiment. That Star Trek scenario, you're on the Enterprise, Scotty beams you down, and you go on the planet. The way the Star Trek transporters work is they scan all that you are, and then they recreate you elsewhere on the what's it called? They recreate you on the planet, and then your body on the Enterprise is destroyed. Well, the question following that is that suicide? Does that count as suicide if you disappear and then are recreated elsewhere? Your mind's the same down there, but did you as a person die between the time that you were on the Enterprise and on the planet? Or are you just dead and a new person that's walking around with your memories is on the planet? It's an important question.
McCoy never likes doing the transporter for that reason.
That's fair. And the similar question is, what if we didn't destroy the person on the Enterprise? You'd be cloning the people. I'd argue that this thought experiment is very similar to the transporter thought experiment. And in a lot of ways, they're sort of complementary. All right, do you have any questions about this whole deal?
I feel like a lot of this is based off of just your definitions of things. I feel
Absolutely.
like they're all thought experiments, but like...
That's kind of what all thought experiments are like.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with how you define something. But I left this open to definition. If you define something one way, it leads to one result. If you define it another way, it'll lead to a different result. All right, anything else? Cool, thank you very much. This is my bibliography. There will be more on this when I send it to you. I have the information, just not the actual thing. All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
Let's actually record all of it.